Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of PEP. We are back with another edition of our special edition Traders episodes called the Roundtable. I'm your host, Maria Sellers, and today we are going to be recapping episodes 4 and 5 of the Traders Season 4, aka the best reality show on TV. I'm going to start this episode by saying there will be spoilers, so if you are not caught up, go watch the episode, then come back. Because I do not want to hear it about spoilers. That's your spoiler warning, so do that. Okay, now that everybody that is avoiding spoilers have gone, let me introduce you to today's guest. She's one of my closest friends and an expert in niche reality TV. Everyone, welcome my friend, my bestie, my girl, Celeste Springer.
Hello! I'm so excited. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. It's going to be just like one of our phone yap sessions that lasts hours and hours.
No, I feel like that's 90% of what we talk about is just Real Housewives or other like weird reality TV. So we're kind of in our element. Obviously you are, but I am too.
Of course. While we could talk about all the niche reality TV all day, we are here to talk about Traitors. Are you ready to get into it?
I'm so ready. I've been ready.
Okay, so we're starting with episode 4. Again, there will be spoilers. If you're not caught up, leave now. That way, to quote Kenya Moore, don't come for me unless I send for you. Great. Now that we're on the same page. So episode 4 starts with the Traitors doing a face-to-face murder. And the people that were like up for murder were Caroline, Eric, Rinna, Ron, and Kristen. And of course, we don't know who they killed until breakfast because the Traitors love to do that to us. But one player, I think it was Monet, had the idea to ask everybody to describe the murder from the night before, which that just sounds like a crazy sentence to say when you're talking about a show on Peacock, but you know. So they all go to breakfast, all of those people who were up for murder, and Lisa Rinna is doing the absolute most.
She honestly kind of flabbergasted me. I thought she was gonna blow it. When I was watching that, I really didn't know. I didn't know where she was gonna take it. She did do the absolute most. I think, didn't she say like they tied me up to a maple tree? I'm like, girl, wait, are you an arborist? Like, what are we talking about? A maple tree? I was so confused. I thought for sure she was gonna blow it, but it seemed like for the most part everyone bought it. I think Natalie asked her one question, right? And Natalie was like, it was about Lisa was like, oh, and I begged them to spare me because I would be the best faithful ever. And Natalie was the only one to question her, just being like, they would want to kill you if you're a good faithful. Why would you say that? But other than that, Lisa killed it. I mean, literally and figuratively. Like she killed Caroline, as we know now, but she killed it. I thought she was gonna ruin it, honestly.
I did too. I was like, Lisa, girl, this is not the set of Days of Our Lives or whatever 90s soap opera she was on. I was like, tone it down a little bit, girl. But but they managed to believe her, and I think it was because she answered the question right about what color the mask was that the like Grim Reaper or whatever had on. I think if she had gotten that wrong, she probably would have been found out. But yes, as you said, they decide to murder Caroline, and we get one of the funnier exchanges in a face-to-face murder. Caroline goes, Rinna, you bitch.
And my favorite cherry on top of that, it was not even just that single line. It was like, I guess I'll see you at BravoCon. And it goes, you won't. It was so iconic. I just could not believe.
That was iconic.
I mean, say what you want about the Housewives, but they know how to make good TV. You know, like they know all these
Yeah.
different things to say that just are like phenomenal, you know? So I really really love that interaction with them. I'm bummed and you have to tell me your thoughts on it. I'm curious to hear what you think, but I'm bummed Caroline was murdered cuz I think she could have been an interesting player in the game, specifically farther out. But honestly, you know, even
Hmm.
though we're still kind of early in, she was just laying kind of low. And I don't think it played to her benefit.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about Caroline. I've watched a little bit of Ladies of London and I watched like 4 episodes of Dubai. I couldn't really get into
Mhm.
that. But from what I know of her, like I do think she definitely could have um really been a force in the game. Like she seems like she's pretty smart, pretty witty, pretty like sassy. So I think she
Mhm.
could have been a force at the end, like you said. I think she's also pretty smart. Like she's not somebody that I hear talk or hear see interact with people and I'm like, girl, she's not, I don't know how to say that. But like, there are some
Mhm.
housewives that are a little bit, you
She's
can
not a
tell that they're
Portia.
maybe not as smart as others. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's not a
Mm-hmm.
Portia. I'd even argue she's not a Dorinda either. I would have liked to have seen more, but I ultimately do think it was a smart move for them to murder a housewife because they hadn't yet, and in years past it had been kind of gamers versus housewives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they had not picked a housewife, they would have been hot on the scent of the housewives. So I think that was a really
Yeah.
smart move.
No, and that's totally fair too, because I think when you have too many of them, it's a little bit much, especially for viewers of the show who
Yeah.
might not be Housewives fans. They definitely bring like a different energy to a show for viewers or to a set for everyone involved. So I totally get it. What were your thoughts on, I know we're going back in time a little bit, but I just have to ask cuz it's like front of my mind right now. Going
Yeah.
back a couple episodes, obviously there were rumors about Dorinda and Mama Kelsey getting into it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think, it's just something they ultimately cut out, or do you think it just didn't happen to begin with?
I find it really hard to believe that it did to believe that it happened and they cut it because I don't think Mama Kelsey was really there long enough for them to have that kind of altercation. And from what we've seen of Dorinda so far,
Mm.
she has been pretty tame. Dorinda Medley is not a person who can get drunk to the point of there being an altercation and nobody know. Like, I think if she had been, so drunk and rowdy that Mama Kelsey said something to her about it, that she would have, it would have been too much for them to cut because other people would have been catching on too. Now, that is to say, unless it was a thing where Mama Kelsey came in and made a comment about how Dorinda drank on Real Housewives of New York and was like, "Oh, I recognize you because you did this and this when you were drunk on season whatever of Real Housewives of New York." Like if Mama Kelsey was like going up to her being like, "Clip, clip," then then I would get it. But I have a hard time thinking that it happened because I don't know of if any reputable news sources like actually confirmed it. I think a lot of the ones that reported on it were like, this is an online rumor.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
no, and
don't,
I think
I
that's
would love
totally
to
fair.
know.
I know, I would love to know too. I think you're probably right. But honestly, I mean that ties into what we were talking about before though, with them getting rid of Caroline. Like there's just a certain energy that housewives bring, and I think things can get
Mm-hmm.
into a an area that's not really supposed to be the vibe of the show if you have too many of them around. I think they're all kind of competing with each other, whether they like it or not. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that's not exactly what they're looking for. So I agree.
Yeah, definitely. And they're very used to like like talking over each other and fighting and like kind of having to defend themselves for reunions. So that's probably why they're pretty good at it when they're like really highly questioned at a round table and things like that.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about people that like don't watch Housewives knowing, I really want to know if there's anybody out there who only watches this show for the gamers and for the show who have no context of what BravoCon is, who were just sitting there like, what the hell? When Caroline was like, I'll see you at BravoCon, you know?
Sure, there were a good handful of people that it just went completely over their heads, because that's getting deep into the Real Housewives universe that some people, unfortunately for them, are not that deep into. So I guarantee you a lot of people were like, huh? Like, I would be probably rewinding my TV and I would be like, okay, what did I miss? Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah. I would probably be like turning on closed captions and typing in BravoCon in Google and being like, what the hell is that?
Exactly. And then you would get taken down a whole nother deep dive of amazing content by just Googling BravoCon. So hopefully some people did.
Yeah, hopefully that made some new Housewife watchers. You know, maybe some people will go back and watch the iconic episodes of Beverly Hills when Rena's tagline was, "Hi, I'm Karma. Yes, I am a bitch." Like
Mhm.
maybe that will happen for them. I hope that journey does.
So you kind of mentioned this in the last episode, just that you enjoy the Dorinda that we're seeing on this show, and that she probably would have stayed on Real Housewives a little bit longer had like she shown this side of her. I am curious for anyone who is watching
Mhm.
Traitors and possibly starts to watch Real Housewives, like the shock that they're in for rather, because I cannot imagine like watching the Dorinda I'm seeing on the Traitors and then going back to watching like OG Real Housewives of New York. I would be flabbergasted. But I agree with you what you were saying though about her being like the good side of her in this show, because you do see this kind of tender-hearted, sweet, sometimes aloof person, and I really like that about her.
Yeah. And I think Dorinda's a good person at her core and is like kind and nice, but we just unfortunately didn't get to see a lot of that on New York because she was always like crazy and stuff and kind of over the top. But yeah, I would love to know if there's anybody out there listening who doesn't have that context. I would love to know your thoughts on Dorinda. Maybe I should ask Will because I know he probably doesn't have context.
Oh, yeah, no, he would have some like some I feel like thoughts, but I feel like his thoughts would be like, she's okay. I feel like it wouldn't be very in depth.
Yeah, he'd be like, she's fine. She's playing the game, I guess.
Exactly. That's exactly like the response you would get.
So, while we're still talking about like the breakfast and them trying to figure out who was killed, one thing that really frustrated me about this episode and maybe the other one as well is just everybody icing out and being so rude to Ron Funches, the comedian. Like, what are you guys doing?
I will probably get into this more, but like I like Ron. I love Ron. I think he's very smart. I
I do
think he's
too.
probably a lot smarter than what he lets on. And I mean, everyone's just out to get him because obviously he was the instigator that got Portia out. But he came to that table with like three different points of evidence on why Portia could have been a traitor. I mean, I would get and
Yeah.
understand when people are just throwing random names out there. They don't have anything to back it up, but that was not the case with Ron at all. And I honestly,
Yeah.
I was like, I should have known better, but in that moment before they got rid of Portia, I truly believe that she could have been a traitor. More so because I thought she's not as good about being on her toes and could have quite honestly accidentally said all that stuff, knowing she's a traitor. But then you also have to
Yeah.
recognize like Portia's history on Real Housewives, different comments she's made that point to some lapses of judgment and realize that sometimes she's just saying stuff. My girl is she's just saying stuff. And I think that's obviously what happened there. So I love Ron. I'm so upset that everyone's turned against him. I really don't want to see him.
I could not agree with you more. And what you said, he had 3 pieces of evidence. He also had witnesses. Like, it was a thing where people were like, oh, I did hear her say that. She said that. Like, it wasn't just oh, this is what I heard. And then she was like, I didn't say that. It was like, she definitely did say that. I heard that myself too. And it's just really frustrating that they've all kind of turned against him because of that. When, especially given the context that that was the beginning of the game, and like they were grasping at straws for anything at that point, you know? Whereas the more you go in the game, like the more evidence you have, more alliances are made, more, you know, people act crazy in challenges or whatever. So you kind of have more to go off in the later episodes versus episode 1. So that just really frustrated me that they're icing him out so bad. And I hope that the tide kind of turns for Ron soon, or that he ends up getting like banished or something, because I can tell he's not really enjoying the experience.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's not enjoying it or that's just how he is. Because also, I mean, look at how he had this interaction with Dorinda, and she was like, "We don't even know who you are. Like, you don't tell us about your family." Da 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 da. And maybe that's just who he is. Like,
Yeah.
maybe he's just like a low key guy. I don't know if he's not enjoying it or if he is or whatever. But yeah, it's tough to see him in that position. Part of me also thinks that the only path forward for him, the only way he could possibly like stay, is I feel like if they got rid of Colton. I just feel like Colton is such a big part of like opposition with the faithfuls in a bad way. And I just truly think that Ron's only path forward is if they get rid of Colton. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I have so much to say about Colton. So much to say, but we'll get to that. First, since we're kind of going in order and like recapping, let's talk about the challenge in episode 4. So, Alan is explaining the rules of this challenge, and we find out that 10 people will be up for murder, which is a lot. Celeste, do you mind explaining the rules of this challenge? Because I know it was like you had to find a spear and then like stab somebody's shield, but I didn't really understand the whole like doll thing, what that was about.
Confusing. I'm not. So essentially they had these dolls strung up in trees, and they said that the dolls will lead you to the spear. And I don't know how that worked. Like, I don't know if the dolls were like facing or pointing where the spear was. No idea. I just know that they were supposed to lead them to the spears. It was kind of convoluted and confusing. But then obviously, we know that once the players grab the spears, they light them on fire, and then they can pick which player they want to be at risk of being killed that night. So I thought it was an interesting game. I think sometimes they make it a little bit more convoluted than they need to. I also agree the dolls thing was like, what? What are we talking about?
Yeah. Did you ever watch Friends?
I didn't know.
Okay, well, that's shocking to me, but there's an episode of Friends where one of the characters, Joey, is auditioning for this game show, and they're kind of like making fun of game shows that like have a ton of rules and stuff. And he's like reading the rules, and he's talking about like, you gotta get some kind of wicked wango card and then do this and this, and like the list is like super long. Anybody who has seen this episode of Friends as many times as I have will like know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's what I feel like they're doing sometimes when they're explaining these games. It's like, go past the purple bamboo tree, then pick up the wicked wango card, then you've got to turn around and jump on one foot, and then you've got to answer a question. It's like, how do they keep track of what they're actually supposed to be doing?
I would not have the patience at all. It reminds me of when you go over to someone's house and they have a card game that they want to play, but they have to teach you all the like instructions and you're just going through. It honestly sounds exactly like that Friends episode because it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, yeah, I don't know why they have to make it that way, but I guess it kind of like they do want to add some elements of using intellect instead of just like running around and getting your cardio in. So I understand that. I just feel like if they wanted to do that, they
Yeah.
could do more with like puzzles or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So while they're doing this challenge and they're picking teams, Monet floats Lisa's name to Candace as a traitor. Basically, he pulls her aside and says, I'm thinking it's Lisa as a traitor. I can't really remember what his reason for that is, but I do remember that that will be important later on. So anyway, everybody goes and they walk up to this like giant statue and they have to like spear the name of who they were wanting to murder, like they're like trying to roast a marshmallow or something. And then it's so the people who were essentially nominated: Tiffany Mitchell, Michael Rappaport, Ron, of course, Tara, Mara Higgins, Johnny Weir, Jam Jam, Lisa Rinna, Stephen Coletti, and Monet. Um, what did you think about that group of people up for murder?
I mean, Ron is an obvious pick for everyone, except obviously like viewers, everyone on that, all the players apparently. But I was bummed, and we'll get into this more later. I was bummed that Tiffany obviously ended up on there. I feel like a lot of the other people, I think for the most part, when players were in the heat of the moment, I think they were just kind of, sometimes you just kind of like go for someone at random or just like the first person you think of that you're like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this person. Michael Rappaport, I mean, well, duh. He is just such an instigator that everyone's gonna be after him, like 100%. So, I mean, I could have seen that coming from
Yeah.
a mile away. Um, and I one of my favorite moments though from that whole challenge is obviously all these players, they line up and they shout the name of the person they want to get out. Or the person that they want to not have immunity. And Tiffany goes up and first of all she says, "On guard." And then she goes, "Monet!" But something about her cadence cracked me up. And I was watching it back, and I don't think anyone else said "on guard." I was like, did she ad lib that? Or did they just edit it out so she was the only one to say that? But I loved that moment.
That moment too, I thought it was so theatrical. It was so camp. I was like, yes, Tiffany, make us some good TV, queen.
Mhm.
Um, I think it was because she was doing that in addition to marching. And you're right. I didn't pick up on anyone else saying that. I don't think it was a thing where they had to like say that. So I think she just ad libbed it for dramatic effect. And Alan was like, "Ooh, I love the marching," or whatever with his Scottish accent. So it was really camp and really fun. And you talking about Michael Rappaport, like, he was doing the most in that challenge because he said Tara's name like 6 times. He was like, "Tara! Tara!" And Alan was like, "Okay, we get it." He was like, "You only have to say the name once."
I also feel like just in general does not. Obviously, some of the rules to the games are confusing, as we were talking about before, but Michael has like a tendency to continuously not understand the game. So, like, for example, with the dolls, he was confused. Like, he grabbed one of the dolls down. He's like, "I got the doll." And it, like, I think was completely not relevant to what they were trying to do. For the carriage ride one with the silver coins, I'm pretty sure he was like confused about how that worked. He just has something or rather a lack of something going on upstairs that leads him to just not understand some of these challenges, which is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I do not like Michael at all, and I haven't since day one, but I've got to hand it to him. Like, he is pretty entertaining on the show.
I
Because
I
he
think
had
he
me
makes
cracking up when he was picking that doll up.
he makes for good TV. Say what you want about him, he makes for good TV. That's all I can say about that. What were your thoughts on everyone that kind of ended up being on the kill list?
I thought it was really interesting that the only housewife that they nominated was Rinna, because there's still several in the game. I mean, Candace is in the game, Dorinda's in the game. Maybe it's just them and Rinna, but still, I feel like in seasons past, like that has been objective number one is like get housewives out, get housewives out. Of course, I was sad to see Tiffany nominated. Um, not shocked about Ron. I did feel like some of the others were just random, like Mara, Stephen Coletti, who acts like he doesn't know what's going on half the time, who said maybe 5 words in 5 episodes. I was of course sad to see Johnny up for murder because he's my new hyperfixation. If you listen to the last episode, you know I'm currently obsessed with Johnny Weir. I think he's just so eccentric and fun. And then I was sad to see him put up Monet, but I see why Tiffany nominated him because he nominated her. So it makes sense, but I just am really struggling as a whole because, with the exception of like Michael and Colton, I really like most of this cast. And so I'm kind of struggling, like, oh no, like they're not all gonna get to stay to the end, you know?
I agree. And it's hard too because while I like majority of the cast, it's also one of those things where I do want the people who are going to add the most entertainment to stay. So while, like, for example,
Yeah.
Dorinda, I really like seeing kind of this side of her. I would like to just not in any negative way, but I would like to see a little bit more personality from her. Again, not in like a drunk Dorinda
Mm-hmm.
way, not in a fighting Dorinda way, but just a little bit more personality. But I agree with you completely. Pretty much everyone besides like a select couple of people I really enjoy.
Yeah, same. So after that crazy challenge, they go back to the castle where we are subjected to watching Michael Rappaport eat spaghetti in the most disgusting way possible.
Is that
Like
the
holding it
second
and like
time?
shoveling it into his mouth.
Am I confused, or is that not the second time they've gotten him on camera shoveling food into his mouth like that? Like, I swear I saw that in an earlier episode too. I could totally be wrong, but I also would not be surprised because clearly that's a habit of his.
I think it was the second time. I know in the first episode he was holding his water like this, and we were like, dude, what are you doing? It was
Like a
crazy.
toddler. Michael Rappaport, the toddler. he he looks like he would walk like a toddler too.
I haven't paid that close of attention to how he walked, but maybe I should like go back and rewatch and figure out if he does in fact walk like a toddler. Um but yeah, so after they eat, this is where things get really intense because they go to the round table and they're also kind of talking about who they want to banish. And Ron Ron thinks that it's Mara who's a traitor because he says that he heard really light footsteps in the woods before the face-to-face murder. And first of all, I think Mara really overreacted to that. She acted like you had just told her that, like, you were, I don't know, gonna do something terrible to her, but she was like so upset about it. And then I also just think it's really funny that he's like just pitting it on Mara when there are a lot of other really small women in the game still. Like, it could reasonably be Candace. It could be Lisa Rinna because they're small. It could be Tara because she's small. Like I don't see how he drew that conclusion.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? I just had a light bulb moment too because you mentioned Tara. She totally could have been. She honestly might be the smallest person on the cast. The only reason I know this is so random. One of my coworkers used to be an Olympic skater. And so I was watching, obviously, Traitors. And
Oh,
so I asked her, I was like, did you know, like, Tara or Johnny? And like very casually, she was like, yeah, of course. Like it's a very small community for them. So I didn't want to like be creepy and be like, tell me everything about them. Like, what are they like? Da 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 da. But she had just told me that Johnny was more of her era of skating. Um, but one of the things she told me is she's like, I don't know if you can see on the show. And she hadn't even watched it, but she was like, I don't know if you can see on the show, but Tara's like tiny. She was like, she's really small. She's like extremely short. So that's honestly a good point. Like, she probably
oh,
would have been a better pick for these, light footsteps or whatever.
I think that also just goes to show you how she's playing the game so low key because she's not at the forefront of somebody's mind, you know?
Mm. Yeah. No, that's a good point too. She is definitely, I think both her and Johnny are pretty low key.
Yeah. Okay, I need your coworker to give me all the information on Johnny Ware. I'm obsessed with him
I know
now.
it's so
So,
hard when you have someone who knows someone because it's like you don't want to sound like a weirdo. Like I didn't want to be like, tell me everything about them. Like
yeah.
what are they like? You don't want to be like, how was your interactions
Yeah.
with them? Da 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 da. But that was like a fun little tidbit.
Wow, that's fascinating. We're gonna have to talk more about that off mic. But so anyway, they go in and they're at the round table. Ron has just brought this evidence against Mara. And then Colton, Bill, who, by the way, needs to go. I need to get Colton Underwood off my screen. Thank you very much. He builds up this campaign to banish Tiffany, and people just go along with it. Celeste, what? I need to know your opinion on this because I thought this was crazy.
I think it's crazy too. The only thing that like gives me pause in the sense of like understanding from where he was coming from is Tiffany had been building this strange alliance with Michael, and I'm not really understanding like what her
Yeah.
gameplay thought of mind was with that. I don't know where she was trying to go, but I think that would have given me some pause. Like what are you trying to do with Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? What's the end game? That being said, it was, upsetting to see her name thrown in the pot because I also think she's very smart. And I think anyone
Yeah.
for like the gamer side of things, they just add such a fun element to the show. So it's hard to see them kind of
Yeah.
attacked in that way, especially when you know they're innocent.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I had a period of time where I thought Tiffany was the secret traitor. So I guess I kind of see where Colton was coming from, but I just didn't like the way he went about it. And maybe it's because I just don't like him,
Mm.
but I thought it was hilarious when she was like, yeah, I am smarter than you. That was so funny that she just read him for filth, and he did not like that one bit. And I also didn't like how everybody was so quick to believe Colton and go with him in banishing her when they all attacked Ron for getting someone who wasn't a traitor. I'm like, you
Mm.
can't really you can't play both sides like that. You've got to decide if you're gonna attack someone who led the charge in getting out of Faithful or if you're not. Like, simple as that.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that because I'm curious to hear your thoughts, like, about that banishment. Um, it was one of the things that's so hard about this show is you have a mix of people, like, for example, housewives or people who are otherwise on their own terms, like, famous or have money. And then you also have people like Tiffany
Mm-hmm.
who, maybe were on Survivor many years ago and either won or didn't, and the money's gone
Yeah,
now, or they didn't win and they clearly need money and resources. It was really tough to kind of see her go because obviously for a vast majority of people on the show, it's kind of inconsequential whether they win or not. But for Tiffany, I mean,
yeah,
I it's a bummer. And I mean, especially when she was talking about how she wants to send her son to college and stuff like that. It's tough to
yeah.
see. And truly when Candace started crying, like I think those were honest tears because I think Candace
I
also
agree.
felt really, really bad.
Yeah, I agree. So I looked it up, and Tiffany actually was on Big Brother a few years ago, but she didn't win. I don't know if you know anything about Big Brother or not, but Big Brother gives an outrageous payout. It's like, I think now it's like $750,000. It used to be like $500,000. But that's a life changing amount of money. But if you don't win that, then you basically just only make what the show pays you, which probably isn't that much in the scheme of things. And she did win America's Favorite House Guest, but that prize is only $50,000. Like, I say only, like, I would love to have $50,000, but in the scheme of things, when you compare that to, people like Lisa Rinna, who's an actress and married to another actor, or somebody like Johnny Weir and Tara Lipinski, who are like royalty in their profession and all of that, and these people who are probably getting pretty good social media deals. When you compare that, it's a big difference. And I agree. I think Candace felt really bad because she made a comment in the turret about Tiffany being a single mother. And what really put the nail in Tiffany's coffin too was that Eric Nam was like, "Oh, I heard a laugh, and I think that laugh belonged to Tiffany." He said that he heard somebody laugh when they were doing like the face to face murder, and I think Candace probably thought, "Oh, maybe he heard me laugh." And thought it was Tiffany. And that made her feel bad or guilty because she knows that's ultimately what put the nail in Tiffany's coffin, you know?
Those were
So,
100% my thoughts too. Um, I think that
mm-hmm.
if Eric did hear something, it was probably Candace. Candace probably recognized that she was the reason why Tiffany got sent home. Because I think without that, you know, huge detail, I don't know if I don't know if Tiffany would have gone home that night, if I'm being completely honest.
I don't either.
Um, Also,
Yeah.
kind of, let me ask you this. If you were on this show and someone claimed to have heard a laugh and they're like 100% like, I heard a laugh and I think it's this person, and I'm a musician, so I know the different tones of laughs. I was like, okay, what? This is bizarre. But if you were on the show and someone was adamant, like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was this person, would you believe them or would you go in pretty cautious about that?
No, I think if I were in the heat of the moment, like, and was torn on who I wanted to vote for, I probably would be like, okay, well that's a good argument to me, even if I don't really get it, even if I'm not like, I don't know about the whole musician element thing of it. Which, by the way, I thought it was hilarious that Rob was like, I've listened to Eric's music. The guy knows pitch. Like, Rob, no, you haven't. Eric was in a K-pop boy band. You're not fooling any of us. I know you do not listen to K-pop. Like, I can look at you and tell you're probably listening to Morgan Wallen. And I'm not going to hold that against you. But I just also know you're probably not listening to Eric's music.
Oh my god. He
um,
I honestly, Rob, I really enjoy him as a player. I've jokingly called him a himbo. I actually don't think he's a himbo. I don't think he's stupid. But I think what Rob has is just he's so nonchalant. that it plays to his advantage like crazy. He is the most nonchalant person.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you see in the show so frequently someone like look at someone just directly and be like, "Are you a traitor?" You know, eyes wide open, "Are you a traitor?"
Yeah.
And Rob's the type of person where I think he'd be like, "No." But there are people, look at how many other people have been asked that question. They're actually truthfuls and they act like weird about it. And I hate to say it, I would probably be the same way.
Yeah.
Like if someone looked me dead in the eye, even if I was a faithful, and they were like, "Are you a traitor?" I would be like, I would start laughing. And then they'd be like, "Oh, you're a traitor."
Same. I'd be like, I don't know, actually.
I don't know what's going on.
Or I do that old, like, kid trick that's like, I don't know, am I? Thinking it was funny and sassy and like reading someone, but it would really just be annoying and stupid. And they'd be like, yeah, you are. Get out of my castle.
If you weren't getting murdered, you were gonna get banished, girl. Like, now you're out. You're done.
I'm done. That's it. So anyway, at the end of the episode, Tiffany is sadly banished, and that leaves